So there are lots of things we can actually do that will help us to connect what's going on in our busy minds with what we're feeling in our bodies. And first of all, I think the important thing is really just simply sitting and breathing and just noticing what we notice. And that in itself, as I said a bit earlier, just sort of sitting with the feeling, sitting with your senses, is a really important and very simple thing that we can all do. But then also what I really enjoy doing is just with a little bit of self-massage, we can easily help ourselves to feel a lot better very, very quickly and very easily. So one of the first things I'd like you to have a go at is just rubbing your hands together. This just warms everything up. And it just warms the palms of your hands. And then just simply placing the heel of your palms over your eyes, just resting your face in the palm of your hands. And just simply feeling that warmth from your hands over your eyes, just a little bit of gentle pressure on there is in itself just very, very relaxing. It just helps us to focus our senses and just to help to take that moment to stop. And then a very simple technique, particularly important if you're struggling with headaches and tension. And quite often we get a lot of furrowed brows. We're often thinking quite a lot and find ourselves frowning. And as you get older, as I do, and you'll notice you develop some frown lines in there. So a lot of tension builds up over the eyes. So an important point to work on is just between the eyebrows at the top of the nose. And just with your fingertips. Again, just resting the weight of your head on your fingertips. You don't have to be doing anything, but just that light pressure is really nice. Just sit with that. And then you can start to work across your eyebrows in little outward strokes or little circles even. And just stroking across the forehead, across to your temples. And the temporal muscles up here, just over the temples, those are often working quite hard. When we might be under tension, we end up gritting our teeth, clenching our jaw. Sometimes we might even be doing this in our sleep, and actually you might wake up with really tight jaw muscles and a really sort of tense feeling around your neck. So just to help ease that, just little circles again, just with the fingertips around the temples, and gradually just working your way down around your cheekbones, down to the hinge joint here at the top of your jaw. If you open your mouth, you can feel that movement there. And sometimes that can get quite painful. So it's really nice just to give it a little bit of attention, just to help relax all the big muscles in the jaw, the master muscles. So just easy movements, just to work into the muscle a little bit. And sometimes if you might feel there can be quite a bit of tightness or pain even in some of these areas as you're working on those, again, just simply resting on that point, just pressing in and holding a little. Just that constant pressure of your finger on there can be enough just to help with that release. And then another thing we can do using some myofascial work is just to simply let the weight of your fingers, the weight of your hand, I'm not gliding over the skin, but what I am doing is just sinking in a little and then just let your jaw slacken. It might not look too nice, a bit funny, but you're just drawing the tissue slowly, just easing that tension, just ironing through the tissues. And that can be really, really useful, just to get a sense of ease through all of the tense muscles that you can sort of build up that tension in the face quite a lot, in the jawline. And then another really simple technique is working on your ears, because again, these are areas which you might sort of not think about them very often, but actually just working from your earlobes, just between your finger and thumb, just little circling motions, just to work your way up and over the tops of the ears, and just pulling the ears up and out and down. And just this slight stretching of all this area here is really effective. And again, just working on the fascia, the connective tissue. This is a tissue that sort of holds everything together. And just by working a little bit more deeply, so we're not gliding over the surface of the skin, we're not sort of doing a shampooing action, but we're just really gathering up the tissues under our fingertips and just moving. We're unsticking some of the tightness, the stickiness that's going on in the fascia and the underlying tissues as well. And as you can see, as I'm working up here, it's moving all of my eyebrows and everything else as well. So it's really connecting across the whole thing. So we can gradually, and this is one of the best things I really get a lot of ease from, and I think you'll feel it too, is just with your fingertips, just firmly gathering up through your scalp and just pressing in, squeezing a little and holding. And doing that a few times, you're easing through your hair and just pulling up through the scalp. And that whole sensation, it's a great feeling, it really is. And you can do that just to have a play through your head, through your hair. Doesn't matter if you mess it up. But certainly just that sensation of working through the scalp, it's just so releasing. And we can come down over the back of the scalp, back of the head, and just with your thumbs round the base of your skull, you'll feel a couple of little indentations on either side of your neck and the spine. And again, just making sure that your shoulders are nice and relaxed. You don't want to be too tense. So just keep everything nice and loose. And just applying a little bit of pressure through your thumbs, just working all the base of that scalp, just drawing the tissues together. So you're just working from the outside in. And wherever you might feel a little bit of tension, just sit with it. Just stay on the spot, and just that bit of focus, bit of attention allows it to gradually start to release. And then we can work our way down. And another great thing really is for lots of us, we're often sitting in front of our computers or on the phones looking down, so a lot of tension it gets held and gets built up in the neck. And these muscles down the back of the neck, down the side of the neck, are all the things that are like scaffolding, holding the weight of our head. So you can imagine that's carrying a lot of tension a lot of the time. So we're putting that under a lot of stress. So again, just with your fingertips, all I'm doing is really just working in just a bit of pressure down and across the back of the neck, and just pushing in slightly, but just gradually drawing the tissue underneath the skin from the front to back. And we can also do that just going down the side. And what I find quite useful is working on the opposite side of your neck with the opposite hand. Just with your fingertips, slowly just sliding, just gradually drawing the tissues down. And if you want to as well, just with loose knuckles, that's another thing you can do, which gives you a little bit of a different pressure. But again, it's not about pressing in. This isn't about a sports massage where you're having to go in hard and deep or anything like that. This is really just easing the tension. And it's also really important to move the tissues across the neck. So your fingers are going across the line of the muscle. If you've got these muscles going down the side of your neck, just be careful where you're working because there's lots of glands and nerves and blood vessels and things here. So we're not really working in really this soft part of the jaw. It's on the muscles down the side. And if you tilt your head to your shoulder, that can actually help the muscles just to slacken, just to relax a little, and you can work into that a little bit more. But doing a bit of cross fiber friction, that sort of movement, just stretching the muscles back. And sometimes if you find a little bit of tightness there, a bit of tenderness, you can just sort of press in and hold that. And you'll feel, once you've done that, quite a nice release. And it can sometimes feel, I call it a mintiness. It's that sort of sense of lightness, sense of freshness that fills the area once you've worked on it. And it's really, really nice. It really eases the muscles out. Another important part of our shoulders really are the tops of our shoulders here, which is often where we all carry a lot of tension and tightness. So what I like to do again is just grabbing hold of that whole bunch of muscle up there, the trapezius, and again just squeezing and holding. And sometimes what is also quite effective is if you do that, but then with the other hand, all I'm doing there is just resting my forearm on this elbow. So it's just giving a bit of an added downward pull on here, but I'm not actually having to actively press down too hard. So it's just giving it a little bit of an extra bit of pressure if you need to. And relax that off. And again, the same for the opposite side. So just finding that muscle. Sometimes it might just be useful to just tilt your head, bring your shoulder up slightly just so you can slacken that off a little bit so that you can just grab hold of that muscle. Just nice firm grip, nice firm squeeze. And again, if you need to, just apply a little bit of downward pressure, which adds to that stretch. So just working into all of these areas is really sort of quite nice and relaxing. If you're finding that this might be a little bit of strain on your hands, then using tools can be helpful. And one of the best tools, the simplest tool, is a ball. I've got I think this is a softball, but a tennis ball is perfectly fine too. And the key thing here is to really just play with it, as it were. So all you're doing really is using this as the point of pressure, and you can place it on the top of your shoulders or around the back, for example, here, and just lean up against the wall. So I'm just going to show you how to do that against the wall here. I'm just going to take the microphone off, so it might be a little bit faint at first. But it's a really simple technique that we can all use if you've got this. And it's just putting the tennis ball or ball just against the wall, and all you're doing really just leaning on it, leaning back, and you can move it around. You can find that spot in between your shoulder blades, which it can be really tight, just across the shoulders, and just you can use that to massage the muscle, but a key thing really, which this is really effective for, particularly when you've got a lot of tightness and tension there, is what we call working on your trigger points. And the trigger points are knots in the muscle fibers that build up when they become overused and tired. And really just finding those tight spots and just leaning back and sinking in and just letting that pressure do the job. And what you might find sometimes that if that slides and falls about, stick it in a sock. So you're not having to balance the ball, but all you're doing really then is, once you've got it at the bottom of the sock, like that, you can sling it over your shoulder. So you can keep hold of it in one position while you actually leaning back. You can move it around, you can go further back in between your shoulder blades, like here, or further up to the top part of the shoulders and so on. So basically it's just having a play around with these tools. One other thing, if you do get a chance to also have a look at this, is something called the back knobber. I know, it is a funny thing. And I show this a lot to my clients, and I've also used this a lot when I'm out at events. It certainly is an interesting tool. But basically really, really simple. It's like a lever, and basically it acts, I call this the Heineken tool, because it reaches the parts you can't reach. So basically, same principle as the tennis ball, but helps you to apply specific pressure to particular points which you can't easily reach yourself. So all I'm doing here is finding that spot, holding the tool to support it, and just applying pressure downwards or forwards with this. So it looks a bit like that. And you can move this around in whichever area, in between the shoulder blades, underneath this way, and around the backs of the arms as well. So you can get it into the areas here which are often quite tricky. So this is the back knobber. And you can find this online. I think it's about £25–30 or something. Really, really simple, but really effective. So there's a few things there that you might find useful. The other thing to remember is that it's really important to think holistically when you're working on yourself. So what that means, it's taking a whole view of how we work. So that means essentially that while we might be getting tightness and strain and so on and pain in our shoulders, for example, what's actually going on, it's, if you can imagine a bow and arrow bow, the bow is runs across the backs of our shoulders and the tops of our shoulders, and the string attaching the bow is the muscles across the front. And you can imagine if the string is tight, it's pulling our shoulders forward. So as soon as we're working on the computer, or we're driving, or we've got our hands up doing things, hairdressers particularly, this is a big issue for many people, like that. So as soon as our hands are coming up, our elbows are up, our pectoral muscles, the chest muscles here, are doing a lot of that work to hold the arms in that position, hold our hands forward. So you can imagine, as soon as that remains quite tight, then it's going to be pulling the shoulders forward. So the tension we're feeling is in our shoulders and in our backs, but really the problem and the cause is actually tightness and tension building up in the top parts of the chest. So to help with that, in order to release the tension in the back, we actually first need to work on releasing the front in order to allow those shoulders to drop back naturally. So again, simple techniques to work on the muscles across the top part of the chest is, if you find your sternum, the bone here, and just working into the muscle on either side, just with your fingertips, a little bit of pressure, circling, finding those points which may be a little bit tender, just working into those with little circles, a little bit of pressure. And again, just doing a little bit of myofascial work where we can actually just sink in to those tissues. And it's just very slowly, we're just dragging that tissue, the underlying tissue, across and to the side. So moving outwards from the sternum out to our shoulders. And sometimes also trigger point work is really effective. So where we might find a little bit of tension, we might feel a little bit of tenderness, again, just alternatively, we can just simply sink in. Again, using your breathing, using your mindfulness approach to this is just getting a sense of what that feels like. And again, visualization is really, really important with this. So imagine with your breathing, we're breathing into the point of tension, into this muscle area. And as we're breathing out tightness. We're relaxing, breathing in. And it's like a wave. We're breathing out, that wave is breaking. The tightness is dissipating, it's fading, it's dissolving. So just finding those points and just sinking in and pressing and holding, and gradually you'll feel that start to fade and dissipate. And again, just work on the opposite side as well, so just getting a nice balance through the body. Okay, so there are a few things there, but lots of other things we can do. And if you want to find out more, then you can have a look on my website. My website is www.massagetherapyleads.com. My name is Gerry Andrews. I'm the body mind coach and massage therapist. So if you ever want to get in touch, please do, either by email, by phone. You'll find my details on the website. I'm actually, I've got a new website design coming up very soon, so please have a look out, and if you can drop me a comment or say what do you like about it. If it's working, it'll be great to hear your feedback. But do get in touch if you need to, and I'm still working online with people. Hopefully with all this, the changes that may be coming through, we just don't know how we might be able to start to be available to people going forwards. But certainly if you've got any questions or got any concerns or just want an online consultation, then by all means feel free to get in touch, and I'll be more than happy to have a conversation with you. And this way we can bring the body back into the conversation. So thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the Leeds Mom Online 2020. Thank you very much.